Hello everyone, our topic for today is about realistic fiction. So what is realistic fiction? It is a story written about events that did not actually happen but could have happened. The people, events, and places may be real. It is a classification of literature containing stories that could actually happen in a time and setting that is plausible and contains realistic characters. Realistic fiction is writing that, although invented, depicts a completely realistic scenario. Realistic fiction contains believable characters, settings, conflicts, and resolution. These stories tend to take place in the present or recent past, making it easy for readers to connect to them. Their themes highlight relatable issues for the modern reader. As a result, realistic fiction is usually tied to its contemporary time period by its setting, dialect, technology, and themes. Realistic fiction has roots in the realist movement of the 19th century. Prior to this movement, authors expected a certain dramatic arc to their writing, often forcing a romantic, unrealistic, or predictable outcome. Language was expected to be literary in quality, with a certain formality and high level of diction. Realism altered literary style by bringing everyday events into the narrative and allowing for realistic characters and plot outcomes at the expense of dramatic effect. Realist literature also stressed the use of regional dialect and realistic dialogue. Together, these changes formed a basis for the realistic fiction that exists today. Today's realistic fiction covers a broad swath of topics. It contains believable characters who act within our own world, often in specific and identifiable locations. The characters speak using contemporary dialogue, including slang and sentence fragments, as most of their readers would. Realistic stories and novels address themes relevant to their readers. These may include stories of self-discovery, coming of age, triumphing against the odds, or fighting for justice regarding a hot-button social issue. The tone of these novels ranges widely. Readers can select humorous, gritty, or romantic stories, for example, based on own preferences. Many options make realistic fiction an accessible genre of literature and a popular option for readers of all ages and backgrounds. Characteristics of realistic fiction. Realistic fiction is created from the author's imagination but uses historical events. The following are characteristics of realistic fiction. Setting is an accurate portrayal of the world as we know it. The setting could exist. It is a vivid and accurate depiction. It contains believable stories as the writer uses everyday occurrences and/or extreme realism. The story is not true, but it could be. Everyday language is present. The author uses a dialogue that makes the characters seem genuine. The plot contains conflict or tension as well as resolution. The problems are realistic, example, problems of self, family, or nature. The solution is believable as a result of the character's actions. The themes depict realistic experiences that the author wants the reader to understand. Example, a message about people, life, nature, or the world. The characters are human beings who behave in realistic ways. The characters use realistic dialogue that makes them appear real. The narrative structure and elements are presented in a time-ordered sequence. Realistic fiction examples: The Fault in Our Stars by Johnny Green, 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher, The Stars Beneath Our Feet by David Barclay Moore, The Last Cherry Blossom by Kathleen Birkinshaw, From the Desk of Zoe Washington by Jenny Marks, The Outsiders of S.E. Hinton, Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, Diary of a Wimpy Kid by Jeff Kinney, and Holes by Louis Sachar. The Fault in Our Stars, written by John Green. Synopsis. Hazel Grace Lancaster Shailene Woodley, a 16-year-old cancer patient, meets and falls in love with Gus Wafers, a similarly afflicted teen from her cancer support group. Hazel feels that Gus really understands her. They both share same acerbic wit and love of books, especially Grace's touchstone, An Imperial Affliction by Peter Van Houten. When Gus scores an invitation to meet the reclusive author, he and Hazel embark on the adventure of their brief lives. This is based from the movie The Fault in Our Stars. Next one is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. Based on the best-selling book by Jay Asher, 13 Reasons Why follows teenager Clay Jensen as he returns home from school to find a mysterious box with his name on it lying on his porch. Inside, he discovers cassette tapes recorded by Hannah Baker, his classmate and crush, who tragically committed suicide 2 weeks later. Next is The Stars Beneath Our Feet by David Barclaymore. A boy tries to steer a safe path through the projects in Harlem in the wake of his brother's death. In this outstanding debut novel that's been described as a fast and furious read in which we meet some amazing people that stay with us. This is an inspiring book about a young boy who loses his brother in a way his mother and is experiencing grief and loss during that tumultuous time of adolescence. The Last Cherry Blossom by Kathleen Birkinshaw. Based loosely on author Kathleen Birkinshaw's mother first-hand experience surviving the atomic bombing of Hiroshima, The Last Cherry Blossom hopes to warn readers of the immense damage nuclear war can bring, while reminding them that the enemy in any war is often not so different from ourselves. From the Desk of Zoe Washington by Jenny Marks. After receiving a letter from her incarcerated father, whom she's never met, 12-year-old Zoe sets out to prove his innocence. It's the summer before 7th grade, and aspiring pastry chef Zoe sets her sights on perfecting baking skills to audition as a contest on Food Network's Kids Bake Challenge. Next one is The Outsider by Susan Alloy Hinton. The Outsiders is about 2 weeks in the life of a 14-year-old boy. The novel tells the story of a pony boy, Curtis, and his struggles with right and wrong in a society in which he believes that he is an outsider. Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. What is Because of Winn-Dixie about? Because of Winn-Dixie is about a young girl, Opal, who is lonely and feels abandoned by her mother. She befriends a dog, Winn-Dixie, and he helps her form more new friendships. In the end, Opal is no longer sad and becomes happy with her life and the way it is. Next one is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. To Kill a Mockingbird is a 1961 novel by Harper Lee set in a small town in Alabama. The novel is a Bildungsroman or coming-of-age story and chronicles the childhood of Scout and Jem Finch as their father, Atticus, defends a black man falsely accused of rape. Scout and Jem are mocked by classmates for this. The Catcher in the Rye by Jerome David Salinger. The Catcher in the Rye novel by J.D. Salinger, published in 1951. The novel details 2 days in the life of a 16-year-old Holden Caulfield after he has been expelled from prep school. Confused and delusioned, Holden searches for truth and rails against the phoniness of the adult world. So the last one on our list is Holes by Louis Sasher. The book centers on Stanley Yelnats, who is sent to Camp Green Lake, a correctional boot camp in a desert in Texas, after being falsely accused of theft. The plot explores the history of the area and how the actions of several characters in the past have affected Stanley's life in the present.
One of the example of realistic fiction is about Anne of the Green Gables that was written by Lucy Maud Montgomery. So Anne of the Green Gables is a novel that talks about orphans. But before we proceed to the whereabouts of the story, let's first have a brief background about its author named Lucy Maud Montgomery. So Lucy Maud Montgomery was born on November 30, 1874, and she was a Canadian regional romantic novelist. She was raised by her grandparents because her mother died when she was still young. So her first novel entitled A Golden Carol, but Lucy Maud Montgomery was best known as the writer of the story entitled Anne of the Green Gables. So Lucy Maud Montgomery children's novel Anne of Green Gables was first published in the year 1908. It was a work of sentimental but endearing coming-of-age tale about a spirited and unconventional orphan girl who finds a home with elderly brothers. So for the summary of the novel, there's these two unmarried siblings named Matthew and Marilla Robert Cuthbert. They lived on their ancestral farm, which is Green Gables, in the quiet town of Avonlea in Prince Edward Island, Canada. Since Matthew is getting too old to handle the farm work on his own, the Cuthberts decided to adopt an orphan boy to help him. But by mistake, they send Anne Shirley. So Anne is a talkative and happy girl despite living in impoverished life as an orphan. So though she lacks social graces and education, she has a rich and sophisticated fantasy life and an optimistic and generous spirit. Because Anne acts according to her instincts and not according to the code of manners, she unintentionally defies expectations of proper ladylike behavior. But as Anne grows up, she loses some of her childish flair for the melodramatic and romantic and turns her spirited attention to academics. So Anne devoted herself to her studies wholeheartedly, and she earns the prestigious Avery Scholarship to make Matthew and Marilla proud. But Matthew unfortunately died due to heart attack, and because this happens, Anne go back to the Green Gables. But in the end, even though Anne's future path has narrowed considerably, Anne remains eternally optimistic and thinks cheerfully about her future. So Anne of the Green Gables is a story that we cannot deny that it is a realistic fiction. And story is about the conflict of imagination and social expectations and the importance of sentimentality over emotions. So in reality, there are like stories of what Anne had experienced. So I know you have get some ideas about Anne with the Green Gables. So thank you very much.
So good day everyone. The story assigned to me was Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Wonder is a children's novel written by R.J. Palacio, published on 14th of February 2012. R.J. Palacio's Wonder was inspired by the incident where her son started to cry after noticing a girl with a severe facial deformity. Fearing her son would react badly, Palacio attempted to remove him from the situation, not to upset the girl and her family, but ended up worsening the situation. Natalie Merchant's song, The Same Name, made her realize that incident could illustrate the valuable lesson. Palacio was inspired by the Merchant's lyrics and she began writing. She named the book directly after the song and used the song chorus as the prologue of the chapter. Several spin-offs, including the calendar book of 365 Days of Wonder, Mr. Brown's Book of Precepts, We're All Wonders, Augie and Me, and White Bird has been published. A film adaptation was released in 2017, of which a spin-off sequel or prequel film adapting White Bird followed in 2022. The plot of this story was August or Augie Pullman is the homeschooled fifth grader living in North River Heights in Upper Manhattan with his parents. He has a genetic condition, Treacher-Collins syndrome, which has left his face disfigured. Due to his condition, August has been homeschooled by his mother for some years. However, wanting him to experience a larger world, his parents enrolled him in Breacher Prep, a private school for the start of 5th grade. Augie has a sister, Olivia Via Pullman, who is older than him and often puts his needs before hers. Before his first day of school, Augie's mother took him to school and meet Principal Mr. Tushman, who was also invited 3 other students, Jack Will, Charlotte, and Julian, to take him around and help him start getting the feeling of what it's like to be with other people. Augie immediately bullied by Julian, who acts like an angel in front of adults, even though Jack and Charlotte tried to defend him. Augie still did not feel comfortable around Julian. On his first day of school, Augie tried not to draw attention for himself, but his efforts were in all vain as Julian and his friends immediately started bullying him around his appearance. Augie's hope for the school year were later raised slightly when he formed friendship with his classmates, Jack and Summer, both whom defended him from Julian's thought. The situations come to the head of Halloween when Augie disguised as Ghostface when he had told Jack he would be Boba Fett. Overheard Jack joining in with the bullying. As Augie isolated himself from his classmate and family, his sister Olivia's frustration grew, fueled by years of feeling ignored by her family. Returning to school, Augie ignored Jack but admitted to Summer that he had overheard the incident. Jack felt ashamed of his action and punched Julian in the mouth, which led him to his suspension from the school. Over the winter break, Jack reconciled with Augie, telling him the truth of how he did not mean any of the words he had said. As the school year progressed, the bullying Augie faced became more serious and was extended to Jack as well. Julian manipulated several of their friends into turning against Augie and Jack. In addition, Julian's mother voiced her concern with Augie attending to school, citing the appearance may be too much of burden other students to handle. Via confided in her mother that she does not want Augie to attend her school play, as she found comfortable in the fact that nobody at her new school knew that about her brother's condition. Augie overheard and stormed out of the room angrily, upset that his sister was also ashamed to let her new friends see him. When he expected his mom to come into his room, time only passes until Olivia did. When Via entered his room, she was upset and told Augie that the family dog Daisy is in a bad condition. They say goodbyes and Daisy got into a taxi with Augie's mom. Meanwhile, Via's best friend Miranda started avoiding her for reasons unknown to Via. Both Miranda and Via auditioned for the lead to their school play and Miranda got the part. However, on opening night, Miranda sees Via's family in the audience and feigns illness so that Via will play the lead. It is relevant that Miranda, an only child upset her parents' divorce, felt isolated at summer camp and pretended Augie was her brother, gaining sympathy and friendship from other campers. Miranda's guilt over the deception had led her to avoid Via, but allowing Via to take the lead role, providing a way for the two friends to reconcile. Via's family celebrated by taking both girls out for dinner. At the end of school year, the fifth grade class went to the 3-day trip to a nature reserve. Augie is initially concerned about going. However, upon hearing that Julian will not be entering or attending since he thought that school trip was dorky, Augie decided to go on the trip. He had fun until the last night when he and Jack went exploring the woods. They were attacked by a 7th grade student who mocked Augie and beat them both until Julian's friend found them and fought off the bullies. Augie began feel closer to the other student after this ordeal. With summer vacation approaching, Augie is relieved to hear that Julian will not be returning in picture prep, and at graduation, Augie is awarded as Henry Ward Beecher Medal for being exceptional in certain areas throughout the school year. Extremely proud of her son, Augie's mother comments that he is a wonder. For me, this book is very realistic since it depicts the how Augie gets bullied and is socially isolated for being different. Therefore, I think almost everyone will relate to this influential story. This book efficiently puts light on the theme of intolerance of the society towards someone who is different from us. Hence, it is a kind of story that feels indispensable for everyone to read. This book doesn't use highfalutin vocabulary to be impressive, but rather the way it depicts society is what makes it so heart-moving and imposing. It is a kind of book that can bring tears to our eyes within a few pages, or made us laugh and believing that despite all the brutality in the world, there is always a reason for us to smile. It is a kind of book that will change the way we look at the world and make us realize that everyone is fighting their own demons and no one is owed to make their lives more difficult by being unkind. And the moral lesson of the story is that people should not let their initial judgment affect their attitude towards a person. That is all about the story of Wonder by R.J. Palacio.
Next story we have is The Diary of a Wimpy Kid by author Jeff Kinney. So about the writer and the book, Diary of a Wimpy Kid is an American fiction book series and media franchise created by author and cartoonist Jeff Kinney. The series follows Greg Heffley, a middle schooler who illustrates his daily life in a diary. Kinney spent 8 years working on the book before showing it to the publisher. In May 2004, Funbrain and Kinney released an online version of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The website made daily entries from September 2004 to June 2005. The online version received almost 20 million views as of 2009. Nonetheless, many online readers requested a printed version. In February 6, 2006, during the New York Comic Con, Kinney signed a multi-book deal with publisher Abrams Books to turn Diary of a Wimpy Kid into a print series. The first installment was released in April 2007 to immediate success. In April 2009, Time magazine named Kinney to the Time 100 most influential people. 16 books in the series have been released as of 2021, and a 17th book is due to be released in October 2022. An activity book has also been released. A spin-off of series centering on the character Rowley Jefferson has 3 installments as of 2021. The first, second, fourth, and ninth installments have been adapted into films by 20th Century Fox. 2 books have been released chronicling the production of films. Since the release of the online version in May 2004, most of the books have garnered positive reviews and commercial success. As of 2021, more than 250 million copies have been sold globally, making it the sixth best-selling book series of all times. As per the story synopsis, middle school is not an enjoyable experience for preteen Greg Heffley, but a horrid ordeal of social landmines that he must bear. To do so, he devises schemes to win him the recognition and status he feels he deserves, all of which fail miserably. Greg chronicles his misadventures, thoughts, and opinions in a diary to prepare for the day that he will no longer have to put up with nonsense. The Diary of a Wimpy Kid has a lot of series, namely starting The Old School, The Last Straw, The Ugly Truth, Roddick Rules, Dog Days, Cabin Fever, The Third Wheel, Hard Luck, The Long Haul, and Movie Diary. For the first book, we have The Old School. So The Old School is about that's the question Greg Heffley is asking as his town voluntarily unplugs and goes electronics free. But modern life has its convenience and Greg isn't cut out for an old-fashioned world. Next is The Last Straw. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, The Last Straw is a novel written by an American author and cartoonist Jeff Kinney, the third book in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. Next one is The Ugly Truth. Greg has matured slightly in this story, but he still overreacts greatly to minor inconveniences and is still hypocritical and harsh. Roderick has matured slightly, no longer physically harming anyone voluntarily, although he does cause major trouble around the house and continues to pull pranks on Greg. Frank is no longer troubled with Greg's mistake. Next one is Roderick Rules. Greg and Roderick are brothers who have to deal with their parents' endless attempts to help them bond. Next one, Dog Days. Greg Heffley wants to relax and have fun during his summer vacation. Unwillingly, he gets dragged for an ill-fated camping trip. Next is Cabin Fever. Diary of a Wimpy Kid Cabin Fever is a 2011 best-selling and award-winning children's book and the sixth book in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series written by Jeff Kinney, of course. Next, The Third Wheel. Diary of Wimpy Kid Third Wheel is a novel and seventh book of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. Hard Luck. Diary of Wimpy Kid Hard Luck is the eighth book in the Diary of the Wimpy Kid series. The book's existence was unannounced at the end of the previous book in the series, The Third Wheel. Next is The Long Haul. Diary of a Wimpy Kid The Long Haul was released on April 28, 2014, and it is the ninth book of the Diary of the Wimpy Kid. And lastly, Movie Diary. The Wimpy Kid Movie Diary is a movie tie-in book by Jeff Kinney about making of the 2010 movie Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which stars Zachary Gordon as Greg and Robert Capron. So basically, this is the 10th book of the series of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. So the whole Diary of a Wimpy Kid become a very trendy book which they have to release in movie forms and other platforms like printed or like in filmmaking. So that's the end of our report. I hope you have learned something. Thank you for listening.